we will reconvene the meeting, and I believe that Kristen is going to give us an update and discussion on the marketing grant.
Yes, at the last IDA and EDC meeting, I brought before you two of the companies.
Good Lord.
I don't have anything.
Oh, she doesn't have.
I brought two companies that had bid for our website and logo design. So through our selection process, which was included in the bid, and I gave each of you a copy, we have chosen to work with Marketing Alliance. And so I need approval of the contract for the chairman to sign. You have a copy of that contract. I just need to add to it that the website needs to be complete by February 4th. In the contract, it has some things that are optional. At this time, we don't plan to move forward with them, but in the future, if we see a fit, I would bring before the board to do those things. Was there any questions regarding the contract?
What do you mean the website needs to be completed by February?
We need to put a timeline in the contract so that it doesn't take years to complete. So in the bid, they said it would take 10 to 12 weeks from when the logo is confirmed. I'll bring the logo design to you to approve at the next meeting, and 12 weeks from now, date will be February 4th.
I'm looking at dollar figures on the agreement, and I don't know what that adds up to. Not a whole lot. Then I'm looking over here at $60,000. Which one of these is
The $60,000 is my budget for the year that I'm presenting to you. And so that includes a lot more than just the website design, which I can go over now, or we can move to approve the contract and then.
Well, how much is the contract for? It is,
Total, it'll be $19,950.
okay, 19 what?
$19,950, and that includes 2 logos.
You see that first page, it's 3,500 twice.
No, I can't look at that. What is the tracking? Now, that's $300 a month. Is that, how long is that for?
The $300 a month, well, that will be, I don't see it.
The site tracking.
Page 15.
Page
Okay.
15.
That's if we choose to do the advanced analytics tracking, which is optional. If you'll go to the second page at the bottom, that falls under it, and it's optional. So at this time, we don't plan on using it, but it will tell us exactly which business visits our site so that we can contact them if we decide to move forward. But initially, we do not have that in our plans to do, unless it's something you would like to see done.
So you're requesting for us to approve everything through the interactive map and just leave that as
Correct.
an optional?
We'll keep the optionals just because it'll lock them into that price if we decide to use it in the future, but I would bring that before you before we move forward with it. So the only thing we are confirming is the $3,500 per logo and the $12,950 for the total
12 months,
website.
36 months, for $100. That's
Any other questions from board members relative to the contract? Yes, sir.
On the optional thing, could that be some of the most important information for us, Kristen?
It can, definitely. The interactive map we already have through Florida Power and Light, and at this time it's free, a free service, but in the future they may start charging. I've heard rumors after a year they'll start charging
That's
use,
what you're
so
talking
we may want to use interactive map. The copywriting will be all of the data that's put onto the website, so the description of the IDA. And in my thought process is that we're going to have to give them that description anyway. It's not, IDA is not just some generic tool they can describe. So if we start slacking, or if we find that our copyright's not as good of quality, then we can choose to use that. And then the advanced analytics will just be a more advanced dynamic of seeing who visits our page.
But that's the part that I think would be the most important to
Right,
us.
and if you would like to do that.
And
for
some,
them,
and
that's
some
fine.
situations where, you know, people feel like we have not got all the information on some companies and all, they give us a head start of being able to start checking out some of these people and going directly to them a little bit earlier and see what proposals we could do. To me, that would be one of the biggest benefits
So
of it.
then we could amend the contract to.
Well, I think, I'm sorry if before you comment on that, I agree completely with Mike. I mean, I think that the analytics are going to be extremely important to us so that we can start reviewing and understanding who's checking us out. But I think that it would probably good for us. I mean, they're not going to complete this until February, is that
Well,
right? So-
they expect to be done by the end of December and the 1st of January, but contractually, we're giving them until February 4th.
And so with that kind of being like an à la carte added, we can add that at any time,
Correct.
as long as it's in the contract, we're locking in the price. You can come back to us in February and say, we would like to begin the analytics,
Sure.
and the company is fine with that.
Yes.
And is that kind of what you were
Yeah.
thinking? Any other questions from,
Yeah, does this website give the people an opportunity to ask questions that would come back to us through the tracking system, or how would that work?
Just in the website design, it'll have all of our contact information, and if you would like to include a send questions, some websites you visit, you enter in your name, and then there's a dialogue box for you to type in your questions. We can include that in the website if you'd like.
Yeah, I think if somebody's going to our website and they got a question, then they should be able to put it in there and it come back to you guys.
Okay, we can definitely add that as a.
Oh, absolutely, that should be key. All right.
any other questions? If not, we're looking for a motion to approve the contract.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. Any further discussion from the board? Any public comment? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, and we will move on to Party Broadband.
Oh, I still have my marketing.
Oh, I apologize. Please continue.
So before you have my marketing budget for this fiscal year, currently we have $53,000 allotted in the marketing budget. I'm just requesting an additional $7,000 to bring it to $60,000. And you can see what I plan to use. Do you want me to go in depth of the line items, or is it self-explanatory?
What's the pleasure of the board?
Well, I'll have to look at it. No, under communications, the website development, 12.9, is that gonna be enough?
Yes, because I included the 2 logo designs, the website development. I also have allotted money for the interactive map and the advanced analytic trackings if we decide to use them.
That's what we just voted on,
She
Don.
broke it down a little bit there, Donald.
I told you it takes me a while to digest this.
I was trying to
Oh.
call you. You said I ain't got time for that.
I'm on welfare, and I'm, you know, you got to, say again? I'm on Medicare till the 17th, and I think they're gonna cut it off on me, so.
You can sign up with us.
Okay. All right, I'll get it sooner or later. It takes me a while.
Did you share what the additional funds would be for in the marketing budget?
Let me touch on that. Last fiscal year, when Kristen was hired originally, we placed a line item in our general revenue budget for a $74,000 allotment into marketing. When we hired Kristen on, her salary came out of that, and then she was here, her start date was
At the beginning of.
October. So she had just a few months in there where she spent some funds. She essentially has $53,000 left from last fiscal year that she never spent. So her budget for this year, for 13-14, is for $60,000. So what I'm proposing is that we take $7,000 from general revenue and place that into her marketing line item in our budget and make an amendment to the budget. So it's not really an increase. It's not really, you know, there's line items that the $7,000 is going to be used to increase her budget. This is really going to be her first year with a full budget. So as you can see, she's broken it out, and this is kind of what she's thinking she's going to have as her yearly budget. So does that make sense?
This includes the interactive map and advanced analytics tracking, which we said were optional and may not start, or they really can't start before February
Correct.
or sometime
February
after that, so, but the monthly, this is for fiscal year
Yes.
budget, starting January.
October. So this will be retro
October, November, December,
to October.
So, but those two expenses that are budgeted in here cannot start, at
Until
minimum, they would start in
February.
February. So
Right.
the request
So
for that dollar amount can't be,
So I'll
it
need
doesn't
to
seem
amend
appropriate.
the track, the advanced analytics tracking, I would take it to myself.
You're just recommending it be transferred
Yeah.
her line items in the budget.
Yes.
Under her marketing,
Correct,
so that it's all under
there.
her budget.
yeah.
Now,
She may not request it until February, but I
But
would
in
like
doing
for
it,
She
her
may
to.
not spend that if there's 9 months and not 12.
if essentially, we're putting $6,900 more in her budget, and there's $6,900 which are optional, we can't start for another 4 or 5 months. So we could take, you know, if we want to leave that in as an optional item, it seems like we should reduce it by the amount of available months for it and drop the amount. Where are you transferring from again?
General revenue.
Doesn't matter. I mean, if you want to. We can always ask for it later too, but I don't think it'll impede anything. It's a pleasure, board.
Would you like to make that form of motion?
Yeah, I would move that we not approve the 6,900 at this point, but we come back later and ask for it if and when we determine it's appropriate and we want those funds.
And we've already appropriated the $53,000 in the budget. So Doug.
So really, we're only talking about a difference of $100 if we pull out those two optional items.
So Doug has a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Are you clear? I'm not sure I'm clear.
He said since we're doing
items we
Basically,
didn't
keep her
vote on
budget
yet.
at what it is now, if and when the board decides to take those optional items and go to contract with them, we will come back before the board and they will then vote to take that $7,000 that's needed for those items and place it into her budget. So it'll stay in general revenue for the time being and probably until February or something like that.
Thank
It doesn't preclude it from coming back later.
Correct.
Yep.
Thank you for keeping him straight.
Just want to make sure that the minutes reflect the action.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from board members? Any public comment? All in favor? Anyone opposed? And is that all for us? Okay, so now we will move on to Hardy Broadband.
Madam Chair, I'd like to notify the board that I will probably be abstaining on this vote and will not participate in the discussion.
Thank you, Lori.
As will I.
Thank you, Jim.
Do we have the nature of the conflict?
It'll be on the form we sign.
As required by law?
It'll be on the form we sign. Okay, then it won't be on the form we sign.
You might have Ms. Pelham address this, she just went to school on it.
Would you ask a question that you already knew the answer to?
Ken?
I know what the answer is.
Then why would you ask the question?
You should announce the nature of the conflict.
My son-in-law works for Rapid Systems. You knew that. Why would you ask the question?
I'm not even looking at you, anybody
Okay,
who's staying.
Okay, thanks.
Am I-
Thank you, gentlemen.
No, I need to say what the...
Thank you, gentlemen, and And to your point, I do think that Jim has disclosed the reason in several other board meetings relative to that. So it has been disclosed, thank you.
Will it be?
I'm certain that he has.
There was
Thank
one
you.
meeting on
Lori.
August 13th, that was it.
Lori?
Yes, the nature of my concern is the fact that Rapid Systems or a related entity may has a loan with my employer, and I don't want that to cause any concern.
Thank you. Okay, moving along.
Bring them up.
We have before us a continuing situation related to Rapid Systems. The board had previously taken up some discussion and debate related to the transfer of assets. This alternative has been presented to you today as a bill of sale. The bill of sale does not have the attachments to it of the inventory list, but basically at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Ken because he and Stephen have had some ensuing discussion that I haven't been privy to, and I'm going to let him.
We finally reached the point, I think the last time I came before you, we were discussing the existence of these UCCs and kind of being the holdup for the transfer. I've reached the point that I'm comfortable that I don't believe the UCC filings are valid in any way on the equipment owned by the IDA. The equipment that was purchased with IDA money, I believe that it is FERBA's intent with those documents to attempt to notice everyone of a lien on equipment they provided that went into the system that has a value of about $93,000 according to their inventories, and that equipment that was really the subject matter of that lien is not part of this bill of sale. So the attachment that you don't have before you, excuse me, Southwell has in his file, Sarah has put together as a very exhaustive list of equipment that went up that the IDA helped purchase. You don't have it with you. It was all being finalized, I think, over the weekend. I don't know that it would matter to you. You, in essence, have to kind of trust that staff and Rapid have gotten together and are comfortable that it's correct. I don't think you could review it for days on end and not know whether or not it was right as board members. So if you'd like it, he has it, can circulate it, has copies. But in essence, this is the final step of the IDA agreement with Rapid, and that is to transfer the assets. Once we got the audit report back that indicated, I believe that they had satisfactorily performed under the agreement with IDA. That's where we are. Anything you want to add, Stephen?
I know you got a draft of the bill of sale in your packet, and it's a pretty straightforward bill of sale. The only thing that, only additional comment we had from that draft was that it may be more appropriate that it just be a unilateral bill of sale. There's nothing that Rapid Systems is really agreeing to in that, so we had counter signatures on there for both parties to sign, and that was the only comment I had back to Ken, was that if we just made it a unilateral document, the IDA was signing, transferring the assets the IDA owns Rapid to clarify, basically pursuant to the terms of the only difference in that bill of sale and what would be a traditional bill of sale when I sold you, something, is that this is reflecting prior agreement as opposed to writing a check and paying for it. So there's some language in the first paragraph that sort of clarifies that this is based on agreement in the grant award agreement. But anyway, the only thing additional or contrary to what y'all have in your packet was just to remove that signature line.
Stephen, you say you're uncomfortable signing it if it's left the way it is?
I don't know if there's any reason for us to sign it. I don't know that, to me it creates a little bit of an ambiguity because we don't want, it's not intended to be a modification to the grant agreement. And that was a concern, is that if we're countersigning it, is it an ovation or somehow, it negates anything that was in that grant award agreement and creates an ambiguity. That was my concern. Not that we're not comfortable with the document. It's just that I don't want it to be construed as something that it's not.
So you're saying you don't think that there's value for them to sign recognizing the as-is transfer of the assets?
I don't know. I don't know that we're not agreeing to anything. So it's a conveyance.
normally, Lori, you see it with banking transactions. I mean, the grantor, Dottie sees it every day. The grantor on a deed is usually the only party that signs. You don't have a signature spot for the party receiving the assets. It's the party conveying the assets. And in essence, that's the original draft of the thing that got out Friday into the packets included a signature line for Rapid, and it just doesn't necessarily need to be there. I mean, the language is clear that it's as is. We are warranting title, which is standard language you'll see in a bill of sale or a warranty deed with respect to real property for that matter. But
Dottie, are you comfortable with that?
The only
practice?
question, I do have one question. On the original agreement, was it proposed as is?
It says with no warranties, and it had a provision about handling warranty claims for the equipment, using words like manufacturer warranties. But so yeah, the as-is, as far as the condition of the equipment, is consistent with the grant agreement.
Does it matter? And how do we know that the IDA bought that equipment?
we have, Donald, the stack of invoices that Sarah reconciled with the IDA's checks. When Rapid bought the equipment, it was invoiced to the IDA. The IDA wrote a check, and they all match up. That's how the list of equipment. It's part of what Clifton Larson Allen went through when they generated their closeout.
Okay, where is this equipment? What pole is it on? Where's it located?
This is everything. I cross-referenced every nut, every bolt, every wire, every, piece of equipment that was purchased through the grant. And I also cross-referenced it with what was turned into the clerk's office and essentially signed off by them.
How much money are you talking about?
Where's my top page?
1.9.
Yes.
The total IDA investment in terms of.
The total that I counted for was $1,994,813.04.
All right, am I understanding that you two guys disagree on what we should do here?
No.
Okay, I thought you said sign it, and I thought he said don't sign it. That's not true? Is that right?
No. I'm comfortable with it being signed only by the IDA chair as grantor on the bill of sale. Stephen had generated the original draft of the document, and it came across with, we call them counter signatures, where both sides are signing. And quite frankly, there's no necessity for that as I see it from our angle. I mean, he proposed deleting the counter signature, and I didn't have any objection to that. I just don't see any purpose in it. We're the ones conveying title.
It's got on here the seller. Are we selling anything, or are we giving it away?
It's our performance under the grant award agreement. So in essence, it's not a gift, Donald, in the sense that they did perform, and they contributed their dollar figures and in kind that was required under the award agreement. So I wouldn't say it's a gift implies that there's no consideration for it, and I believe they've amply demonstrated consideration. I mean, they performed under the agreement.
Okay, so what this is IDA giving Rapid Systems the broadband in Hardy County. Is that what it is?
Yes, sir.
That's what this is?
In sum, that is correct.
Okay, and everything?
But that's what the IDA contracted to do back when it did the original award.
Yeah, I understand that. But has everything been settled? I mean, we had an audit that wasn't an audit. And now the girl from Larson Allen said, Trish said that everything had been met, because I asked her that question. But we're supposed to have an audit, but we didn't have an audit. So I just want to make sure that everything is in line and it's okay, because I made the motion, I believe I did, to approve it because of what she said, because what she told me as an answer. So I was comfortable. I don't think she would lie to me, you know, but still, I just want to be comfortable that everything is in line and there's not going to be anything coming back on me as a board member.
As I understand it, Donald, they have fully performed, and that is the way I read the, you know, whether you call it an audit or you call it a report or you call it whatever you call that document that Clifton Larson Allen created, a closeout report that suits everyone's needs better. All it was intended to do was to go into their records and confirm and verify that they had actually spent money that they claimed to have spent, and the auditors were satisfied that that was the case.
But what did the contract call for?
Which contract?
Didn't the contract call for an audit?
I don't recall. Bill, do you recall? I don't remember.
Auditors, there's multiple types of audits. In this instance, the analysis performed by Clifton Larson Allen was to make sure that Rapid Systems had performed relative to their conditions of the contract.
And she said they did.
And she said they did. And I believe there's evidence that they did. Ample evidence.
I'm still a little bit confused. You want us to sign it. Stephen, what do you want us to do?
Who wants to do it?
I want you to sign the bill of sale. I mean,
This same document?
Yes, that document closes the loop on the transfer of assets under the grant award agreement. It's paragraph 2.3, which it reflects there is
We're going to
that
remove this?
upon substantial completion, the assets will be transferred, and there's a definition of the assets in the agreement, that the transmission assets will be, title of those assets will be transferred to Rapid, pursuant, you know, it says substantial completion of the grant award agreement is the language used in the grant agreement. So, you know, this effectuates that term of the grant award agreement. It's the piece of paper that says, you know, IDA paid for this stuff because they've got the invoices now. Rapid, you have title to the equipment.
And your only change is the removal of one line?
Correct.
The signature line for Rapid Systems?
Yeah, I mean, we reviewed the document, and after, you know, that was the only additional change after it went out Friday that I requested.
Any further questions?
Transfer of title or bill of sale?
Bill of sale is the document, Mike, that transfers title to personal property.
Okay.
It's in essence the equivalent of a deed to real estate.
Okay.
That's what we're doing here, is we're transferring title to that personal property.
And I don't think that we have the inventory list that is to be included as Exhibit A, so can you maybe summarize that for us?
Well, it's a compilation. Basically what Sarah did is she pulled all the invoices together. It's quite voluminous. We had a little bit of an issue getting the final document, you know, getting the actual list and stuff. So we've got the actual, you know, we got all the invoices here, which is all the invoices the IDA paid for the equipment. And so this has every piece of every nut and bolt and wire and switch and everything that went there. So
that is Exhibit A.
This would be Exhibit A. You know, the only thing is, you know, there may be some value in making this a little bit cleaner or something. I don't know. It's the only thing I say, but you know.
Well, we those are the documents.
Right.
And we felt like that's what you needed to have to approve. It'd be no different than if today someone came and said, I want to buy 29 washers and 36 bolts and 200 feet of wire. It is the comprehensive list of what you are debating, approving this morning. I have no problems recommending that you do this. I know nothing wrong with it.
It's a document.
Everybody wants to have a share, and then if you wipe up
copy for your own? We do get a copy for it, but you know, look at,
I pass.
So what you're circulating is just the
Exhibit
images.
A. Detail in Exhibit A.
This is the detail, so.
And it is what was all.
That's what somebody filled out.
No,
I trust you.
I don't have time to look over it.
Okay.
So you just need a motion.
We are looking for the pleasure of the board, yes.
I'll make a motion that we sign the bill of sale and not require the counter signature as per advice of council.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board?
I have a question. Since this is so complicated, I'll join the two gentlemen as a third musketeer, and I'll give my vote to Don, who seems to be most up on this. Is that possible?
You cannot vote by proxy, no.
Okay, then I'll vote whatever he votes.
You're probably not gonna like that vote.
Well, that's, I'm committed to what I just said.
I know, okay.
That is your pleasure, so.
Thank you.
Just for this subject or always?
That will be on TV.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comment? Henry?
I'm really confused, and maybe you can straighten me out. I believe this project started way back in 2009. I think a feasibility study was done, but it really wasn't done. I think a company called Rapid Systems came into the county. I think they wanted $2 million. I think those receipts may have been handled through the EDA on a grant. I think that Mr. Lambert got involved with a FRBA outfit on a rural broadband. I think that this thing came through. I think that Rapid Systems said they had $2 million in the game. I don't know if that was ever proven or not, but at a certain point, there was a performance-based agreement in the contract that would allow the assets that were purchased by Hardy County for the broadband initiative to be transferred over to Rapid Systems. There were never any performance criteria established, this blank in the agreement, none. So when it came time, it was the desire of the IDA staff especially, over a long period of time, a couple of years, to give those assets to Rapid Systems. That might have been part of the problem with the FERBA dispute and all that, I don't know. I know that at a certain point, there was no performance criteria. They couldn't figure out how to get these towers and stuff over to Rapid Systems so they could hold them, on their books and borrow money against them, sell the business, do whatever they want to do. Couldn't figure it out. So then they hired Larson, whatever, under very specific what to look at. There's more disclaimers in that audit report than there are audits. So at a certain point, they came in here in June and gave you this dog and pony show and told you that we think that they had $6.4 million in revenue, and that probably adds up to $2 million at some point. I don't know, maybe they didn't have it when they started, but whatever. Give them the towers. That's the closeout. Closeout's done. You voted on it to give them the towers. 2 months later, August. Now we got a lawsuit by Rapid Systems is suing FERBA and a bunch of other people. You come in here in August and ask for a grant to give $127,500 to Rapid Systems and unlimited $7,000 a month or whatever indefinite. You said that somebody, Mr. Samuel says, I thought we closed that out. I thought we gave them the towers. I thought this thing's done. Why are we giving this private company all this money? We don't even have a relationship with them. They own everything. They're private. Then Ms. Hernandez says, unfortunately, FERBA put a lien on those towers. There's a lien on those towers. We can't transfer. That grant was never closed out. We forgot to tell you. That was on August the 13th. The grant was not closed out. It can't be closed out. Those are encumbered. Encumbered, those towers. All these assets, that list is encumbered. You cannot transfer those assets.
Wrap it up.
So my point is this. Now, out of the blue, we're doing bill of sales to transfer assets, giving them the assets. How'd that happen? What happened to the Now we're talking about the $93,000 on a UCC was just like I said all along. Had nothing to do with these Hardy County assets. You never produced the lien, Vanessa.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
You never did it.
Thank
I
you.
don't see how you can
Please
do
take
it
your
right
seat.
now.
Take your
Thank
seat,
you.
please. Thank you. Any further public comment? Then we will open for a vote. All those in favor? Anyone opposed?
Abstain.
Thank you, motion carries.
Is that, I didn't, what he said was we're giving Rapid Systems $7,000 a month. I didn't realize that.
To address your point, I think there were several inaccuracies in what Mr. Coleman
Okay,
shared.
as long as we're not giving them $7,000 a month.
No.
Okay.
EDA grant approvals?
Did we have a vote?
Yes, we did.
What did Don vote? I didn't hear.
You voted yes.
Thank you.
I told you probably wouldn't like the vote.
No. As long as I'm consistent with what I said earlier.
Okay.
Christie, the EDA grant approvals, do we provide any backup on that? Not certain.
No, it was the EDC funding and the floor plan funding.
The EDA has recently approved a $150,000 grant that the EDC had made requesting supplementary support for our operating budget. I thought those were going to be in the packet because we need the chairman to sign that, or has it been executed?
It has not, she has not seen it.
And we don't have those today.
I have them with me. I didn't get one of them until late yesterday afternoon.
So the purpose of these items on the agenda, even though you don't have the backup, is approval of the grants that were recently approved by the EDA, $150,000 to the EDC, and the $2 million for Florican and $1.6 million for the Incubator. I think they have approved Florican. I'm not certain.
I was mistaken, it was the Incubator.
The 1.6 is Incubator.
So you, again, if you don't want to approve these because you don't have them, we can wait a month. It is a formality.
And the 150 is into the operational budget for basically.
Yes, we did this last year and it has been approved again this year, and it basically allays some of the costs of economic development directly from ad valorem taxpayers to EDA.
What's the pleasure of the board?
What are you trying to hide from us? We're not putting them in here.
I got so much stuff in my back pockets I can't even sit comfortably.
I think it was simply that it was just provided to you yesterday afternoon. Is that right, Christie?
I'm sorry?
That it was just provided to you yesterday afternoon.
Yes.
I'd make a motion that you give us time to review it and put it on next month's meeting.
Second.
The only thing related to that, you should have had the Incubator grant agreement. I don't know why it's not in there. We have a contract that is to be approved for the purchase of the building. And I'm not certain that we can approve purchase without approving the grant, because we would be approving the grant without having had monies appropriated for it. So
Christie, you have them with you?
I think they're being passed around, yes.
Okay. So we could potentially just delay this until further in the meeting to pick up the discussion.
So you're trying to read that and understand that.
Well, that is the grant award agreement that you applied for. There has been no changes in it. It is the final document that has been approved by the EDA for the funding of the Incubator project.
Maybe we do need 2 meetings a month.
Yes, Donnie?
I'm just trying to clarify, didn't we approve those dollar amounts when we approved the budget last meeting?
This is the final document.
And they were off specific line item for those, specific amounts and projects?
They were.
The floor plan is too many. We voted on that, I thought.
Yes.
Floor plan.
All of the amounts that are in the contracts before you today to be signed were presented in our budget workshop at last month's meeting. The dollar amounts are the same. This is essentially the contracts that are put out by the EDA every time we're awarded a grant, that you've had the applications brought before you before we applied and submitted. They were also brought before you after we were awarded the grant. And now this is the contract that the chair has to sign, allowing us to accept the money. But you are correct that the dollar amounts have been approved by you at a prior meeting.
And also authorizing the chair to make the applications in the first
Exactly.
place.
Yes, you are correct.
So now essentially what we're approving or reviewing is the obligations that we are accepting. by-
Yes, that you're accepting the funds. That's exactly
And the
right.
obligations that go along with those funds.
Correct.
Well, I'm not saying this is on purpose, but it seems to be a habit that we get stuff at the last minute and we're told, well, you got to do it now, or we're gonna fall
We
apart, or we're gonna just,
We requested this documentation, and, you know, it's not there. I made a mistake. I'll take the blame for it. I don't know what else to tell you. If you don't want to approve it, don't approve it. And we'll put a hold on everything and wait 30 days.
The contracts were provided to us by the county manager's office as well, so as soon as we receive it from them, we
you said last meeting, just hang me. And I agreed to buy the rope. So
Did you
I
bring
need to
it?
do that, or?
Did you bring it?
Can you find a gallon?
Well,
big enough? Well, he's got a motion.
Okay, so we do
and
have a
second.
motion and a second on the floor to delay until we receive the documents, to delay this until next month. Does the motion still stand?
That's a problem.
Here's the problem.
I withdraw my second.
So we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Any further comment from the board?
What will this delay?
We have a contract on that building,
Purchasing the building.
and it has been complex. And I cannot bind us unless we have money. And we need to accept this grant award agreement in order to have the money. We could possibly do it without doing that, but I think it's inappropriate to do it that way.
That building has been down there for sale for what, 7 or 10 years? Is there anybody else in line to buy it? And if we don't buy it this month, or?
Don't do it then. You know, it's entirely
I
up to
think we
you.
ought to buy the building, but I think we need to make sure we do it properly.
It's entirely up to you.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
these items 11 and 12 are sort of connected. The EDA fund, I think I should have warned or informed the board that I may have a conflict on both those items, and will probably not further, I don't know, I probably need to ask the counselor if I have a conflict or not. Ken, can you help me out here a second?
Can you clarify that if his employer has business relationship with companies that we're doing business with, if that prevents...
I don't have a loan with these people.
Everybody here's got it.
Branch Bank owns it, but I have a relationship with another entity these people are involved with.
Another entity that these, who are these?
Who are the individuals that are, if you look at the,
Item 12.
if you look at Exhibit A on page 33, I have a relationship with the defendants in that case.
The former owners of the property?
Yes.
I don't see that as a conflict. I mean, the bank foreclosed on somebody that owns the property. BB&T now owns it.
Right.
You're saying you have a banking relationship with the former owners of the property?
Correct.
I don't see that at all.
Okay, good.
Any further discussion by the board?
We had discussed before the 1.6 for the incubator program, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what you're asking for us to approve today,
The contract.
the contract.
From the EDA. Just a formality.
Just to get the money.
Yeah,
To get the money.
Do we want to turn down money?
What's the difference between the previous vote and today's vote? What do we?
This formalizes the previous vote in the form of a contract that is produced by the county manager's office on behalf of the EDA to the grant award recipient, which in this instance is the IDA and the EDC. There's two of them there. One is for $150,000 to the EDC. The other is for $1.6 million for the incubator project to the IDA.
What would the inaction today cause on the 1.6?
I can't move forward on consummating the purchase of the property. I do not feel comfortable signing a contract for purchase. We have to provide a deposit. I mean, if you want to appropriate other monies extraneous to the funding, then we can offer a budget amendment to fund the purchase of the property outside acceptance of the agreement.
I want to just be sure that I understand too. We approved the project, and that is strictly the contract where the IDA gets the 1.6 million from the EDA,
Yes.
which is grant money.
Yes.
And the same with the 150
Yes, but
to
it's
the
to the
EDC.
Yes.
So it's just finalizing, and those are the same contracts, I believe, that have been used for other grants that we've received money and
Yes.
gone about doing our projects, correct?
Yes.
So
Ken, have you reviewed the contracts?
I have not seen them. I will add that I think the EDA uses Sandy usually prepares those, and then I look at them at some point if they don't always send them to me to review, but when they do, I look at them. But they do use a form agreement, and about the only thing that changes is the project description.
So you're
If you look
very
at it,
familiar with,
I'm familiar with the form of
language.
it, and my expectation is that the one, at least for the EDC on 150, is going to look a lot like the one from, was it last year they funded? EDA funded anything last year?
yes, the 150,000.
It's
So I think,
probably going to look very similar, if not identical to that, with different dates in it.
so I think that if you are able to speak to the board members on what the obligations of the IDA and the contracts are,
You're
that
asking
might
him
be
to
helpful.
express an opinion on a contract he just said he hasn't read.
Well, but he knows the language
He
of
has
the
not read this contract.
I
I don't like the word probably. I just like could, may, might, instead of will and
I
shall.
He wants to take the contract.
I haven't seen this particular contract. I know that generally speaking, the obligation is described in a very brief paragraph that talks about what you're doing with the money. I don't recall what the one from last year said specifically as far as what the EDC's obligations are. I expect it just says something as brief as administration expense or something like that. I don't really recall what's in it.
Sometimes.
This is the contract, and it is, for lack of a better word, boilerplate, with the exception of the insertion of the amount of $1.6 million in the project description, which I'm going to read. The purpose of this application is to incubate and accelerate economic development projects in Hardee County. The purpose of the funding request is the procurement and retrofit of an existing vacant warehouse and office building located inside the city limits of Wauchula, Hardee County, Florida. Additional funding is requested for applications of Cantu Apiaries, Peace River Products, Peace River Paddle Sports, and Pulion Adventures Incorporated, filed during the September 2013 funding cycle for the Hardee County Economic Development Authority, to be managed by and through the Hardee County Industrial Development Authority, inclusive of operational and promotional expenses for the Incubator and Accelerator project. It authorizes the IDA to accept the money, and the request is for the chairman to be able to sign the contract and accept the money. And if the IDA doesn't accept the money, then I don't believe that they can, without issues, sign this contract and continue with the purchase. And it's going to set it off another month, and it affects people that are sitting in the audience that have been waiting on this money to get the projects going. And there's nothing. This just authorizes the chairman to sign it and accept the money. And if you'd like to read it, if we need to take a recess for an hour and let everybody read it, we don't need to leave here without getting this done.
Well, I don't think.
Are you setting a precedent?
I'm making a recommendation.
But what's
Well,
the precedent?
I don't think waiting 1 month is going to put, if we wait another month to buy this property and get it ready to go for these people sitting in this audience to get going, I don't think that's going to put them out of business. I think you're talking about, once you buy the building, you're talking about 5 or 6 months before you could even get everything installed in there and retrofitted and get them going anyway, wouldn't it?
It's not just that. Peace River Paddle Sports, includes the money for Peace River Paddle Sports to get started.
Well, they can't,
And they're not,
they can't
no,
get
they're
in
not,
there.
no, they're not starting in that building.
He doesn't have to be in there.
He doesn't have to
Well,
be
if
in that
they're
building.
not going to start in the building, why do they need to go in there to start with if they got a place to do the paddle boards?
He has to get started. Would you like for Trey to? Trey
Yeah, tell me
Trey held
why.
his hand up. And
Tell me, if they've got a place to do the paddle boards, then why do they need to go into the building that we're going?
He's here, he can address that. Trey?
That's bull.
Yes, sir, I understand your concern as well, but for me, you know, I'm on a very tight budget, and I don't have the resources to purchase the products and the materials that I need to get started. I can get started in a workshop that I have at my residence, which will give us a head start and be able to generate some revenue for us, so that I can, and quite frankly, without the help from you folks, you know, I just don't know how I can get started, and we've kind of come up to the point where I really need to get it started. You know, we have a lot to do. I've got a lot of vendors ready to go, people that I can get the business going with. This would really put us back and hurt us. And I think everybody involved, we got the ball rolling. I think it's an exciting opportunity for us, and you know, just a matter of you know, taking a few minutes and reading through the contract. And I don't think it's just,
Well, you know, I think everybody on this board wants to get this thing going for you guys. But these things come up, seem like every month at the last minute for us to approve on things that we haven't read or understood or anything. And that has to stop.
well, I understand, and maybe that
You know?
can be addressed in the next.
Well, yeah, let me say this.
Don't punish us for that.
We put the item on the agenda, we requested the backup.
Well, you want us to go ahead and approve something that may be wrong? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think it is wrong.
This is not wrong.
Take a few minutes and read through it, you'll see that it is.
Have you read the contract?
I haven't had.
Okay, but neither
I
have
just
I.
did. I'm okay with it. My
We're talking
recommendation.
about, well, you don't have a vote.
No.
That's the other item, that's on the building.
I'm making a recommendation, that's all.
I don't have a county commission vote, and you don't have a vote in here.
But you can make a recommendation.
A lot of times I can't even get up there to speak.
Okay, so we have a motion on and a second. Further discussion?
Okay, we're voting on not to do it, right?
Or to postpone it a
Or
month?
postpone it, okay.
It's not to postpone it a month, is it? Or is it?
Yeah.
For the next
Motion was
meeting?
to bring it up, give us time to read it and bring it up at the next meeting, which would be a month. That was the motion.
Mr. Prescott has the floor.
I'll pass.
Any further discussion from the board members? Any public comment? Mr. Coolman.
Just real quick, I think I agree with Commissioner Thompson. If in fact this EDA, a grant award is pretty much boilerplate, they use the same form over and over and change a couple of things on it. If that's all there is to it, just to transfer that money to you so that you can use it to spend it on something you've already approved. I mean, I don't mind slapping your hand for not getting your stuff done ahead of time and giving these people the information they need to make the decisions that they need to make. I would actually physically build the gallows to hang the rope on that Don Samuel talked about earlier. But in this case,
is that a threat?
if it's not going to make any difference, I don't even know how much you're going to give this man, but I think that incubator, accelerator, I mean, they should have bought that building a long time ago. My only question will be in the next item, which I'll talk about, is how much they paid for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry.
Well, I think that's a really
I think
we might be making.
Any
some
further
headway.
public comment?
I got a comment. I
Yes.
just got swayed by that. I agree with the proposal now. Changed my mind. I'm for
Yeah.
doing it, signing the contract and voting as,
Now, just for clarification, you realize that is not what Don,
I know.
okay. So you are not voting with Don is what you're basically saying?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just clarifying. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any,
I apologize. For the record, David Knoll, Small Business Development Center. I represent a couple of the clients that are in this grant. And I totally agree with you. I hate to sign anything, but I'm asking if you can't approve this today, that you look at other ways to try to help some of these people till you can get it, because on some of the, you know, we live in a seasonal world around here. And some of the things that some of these people are trying to get into, it is, this is the optimal time for them to get into it, because some of their selling points will come and go. And, you know, as he said, there's small funding, and I've got some other clients that are impacted by this as well. And I respect the fact that you need to sign it, but if you can't sign it, please find some other way to help them through in the interim. That's.
thank you, Mr. Knoll. We appreciate your comments.
So we're voting to
Table, yes,
table,
table.
put it off for 30 days.
No.
So to clarify, an affirmative vote is to wait until
postpone.
the contracts can be reviewed. Yes. Mr. Prescott.
This is just a question. Can we table this to later on in the meeting and let Ken read the contracts and then verify that they are the same, and then vote on it later in the meeting?
We technically will need to
on
address
this
the
one.
motion on the table, and then we can entertain a motion behind that depending on the outcome of the motion. Any further questions? Comments from the public? Okay, all of those. Reminder, an affirmative vote is saying that you would like to essentially table the issue until we can review the.
Madam Chair, before we take a vote, is it, can I change my motion or amend my motion to reflect what he just said?
Yes.
Because if council reads it and says it's okay, I'm okay. I'm just not okay with signing something that I haven't read and he hasn't read
So essentially, you would like to amend your motion.
until, for a vote later in the meeting after council has made a recommendation.
Okay, and I apologize, I don't know who seconded the
I did,
original.
but I'll agree to that.
Okay, so we have an amended motion and a
If
second.
Ken agrees with it, he may not want to read it. He may want to go to lunch.
Why don't you just withdraw the motion?
I think you need to, yeah. We're so damn confused, you know?
An hour.
If you withdraw the motion in a second and request the attorney to look over it the next little bit, you can come back to it later in the meeting.
Then we can just-
Because I'm not so sure anybody at, or very many people at this table even know what they're going to vote on.
So you want to withdraw? So,
Well, I knew how I was gonna vote until he made his change, I'm not sure.
The only thing I was asking, I want somebody to read this document. I've read most of it. I'm sitting, you know,
How many pages?
Commissioner, are you making an assumption
not
about the
you.
mental capacity of the people?
You can read it in a few minutes.
No,
so
absolutely.
Doug has
not.
requested to withdraw his motion. We will move on with the agenda and return to that. And Ken, if you would please review these agreements so you can address that with us later in the meeting.
Here, give me the other one, I'll give it to Ken.
He doesn't have it.
They're both in you?
No, there's one over there.
Casey, do
Is
you
that
need
one
a
of
few
them?
moments? So we will let's take a 5-minute recess so that we can, Casey and Travis can prepare for their presentation.
Solve some problems.
So he went out there and assaulted my daughter, used the shotgun, you go kill him. Matt says, okay, you want to. You took care of the problem. Now they want to put you in jail.
We're good. We done. Go ahead. Check. We're gonna go ahead and turn it on.
Battery mode.
We're gonna go ahead and reconvene the meeting.
Last year.
Ross, would you care to join? Travis, while you're preparing, we'll just pause for a moment. Ken is going to readdress the contracts with us. Potentially.
Madam, I did take a look at the two agreements that were being discussed, the EDC and the IDA. They are both template, boilerplate documents. The only difference between the two of the contracts is the dollar amounts and the parties and the project descriptions in Exhibit B. So the 150 for the EDC, it just says operational purposes basically, and the project description, and the EDA is verbatim what Commissioner Thompson read to you from the project description. So those are the boilerplate, template EDA documents they use, and I'm comfortable with them.
Thank you, Ken. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Donald will second that. Any further discussion by the board? Any further public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. And
Thank you.
we
Thank you,
are,
Madam Chair, for allowing us to ask.
thank you. And we are moving on to Casey and Travis.
Yeah, 11 and 12. 12, I'm sorry, he's 11.
I apologize. We're going to,
Item 12, you have in the packet a contract for purchase of the property in question. Mr. Evers, would you like to address your review of the contract to the board?
I don't recall if it was at the last meeting or if it was the one before, but you had authorized Bill and I to start negotiating for the purchase of the building for the Incubator project and to bring back a contract to you. This document, we sent what I would call a clean contract, digital contract to them, and the marked up version you have is what we received back from the Realtor with their changes and all those little circles with what appear to be X's or places where they won't bill to initial. So legally where you stand is we had a contract that we sent over that was subject to IDA approval, had a number of conditions attached to it so that it was no good until it came back to this board for final approval. They took a look at it, made some changes, and all the little scratch screws and circles with what appear to be X's in them are places where they made changes and want us to initial. Basically, Bill, you want me to just hit the highlights?
Do that, and then I'll answer Mr. Coleman's question.
Okay. Purchase price of the building, $510,000 or appraised value, whichever really is less. It's subject to an appraisal, so we're only bound to that contract in the event the appraisal comes back to the purchase price. A $25,000 earnest money deposit is what they're proposing. They really want to close by the end of the year, but it is subject to IDA approval. It is subject to actual funding by the EDA because you don't have the money in your account yet. You just now authorized the signing of the agreement, so until the money actually hit, and then there's an appraisal condition already described. They made a notation throughout, you'll see the insertion of the word special. Dottie can tell you, a lot of these corporate entities only convey by special warranty deed, and that really is not an issue to me. Coca-Cola is one of those that just won't sell anything, buy anything other than special warranty deed, and it doesn't really make a substantive difference. You get title insurance anyway. I'm just trying to scan through it for other major issues. Most of them were just nominal type changes as far as that's pretty much it. I mean, those are the highlights of the thing, and I didn't really have any issue with any of their proposed changes. They just wanted to make certain you saw they handwrote in a deadline for the appraisal to be accomplished, and that was within 60 days of the effective date of the contract. That's not problematic.
We get to name the appraiser?
We get to name the appraiser.
If we sent them a really good contract, that sure is a lot of changes in this thing.
No, we sent them a contract that, for instance, I had no idea who would be closing it, and they wrote that in, because they're the seller and they wanted to use their person, whoever that is, to do it. We put in a deposit. They wanted a bigger deposit. So we put in warranty deed, they wanted to use a special warranty deed. So you see the scratch throughs, they're not substantive changes, I mean throughout, they're just changes. So, at this point, legally where you at is you have a counter offer from them, and bill initials goes through and initials all those spots where in contract that it's still subject to appraisal.
What's
Funding by the EDA.
What's the warranty for? I mean, if you're gonna buy the building, you just buy it.
The warranty is for the title to the land. That's what they're talking about. But you get title insurance too, Don. We get a title insurance
I
policy
understand that.
identifies any liens or encumbrances, and
Right.
that, we take that out when that comes.
Right.
When we see the title come in. And you also have a due diligence period. We have built in here a 60-day period to get out for any reason. So if Bill comes across something in his due diligence doesn't like, we just cancel the contract.
That's from September 30th, right?
From effective date.
Which is September 30th?
Well, whenever Bill signed, counter.
Oh, counter signs.
Initials, if he initialed today would be the effective date.
Are we aware of any issues, environmental issues?
They have provided a phase one. I have not reviewed the phase one, nor have I had a professional review the phase one, but we will do that. We can do a second phase one if we have any doubt that this phase one is credible.
Asbestos?
Jim, I haven't reviewed it. I don't know. We did have the building assessed, and they did run some tests, and I do not have any information back on that, but it is part of the checklist of our due diligence. We do have a survey. It appears to me there may be a building that encroaches on the survey. I'm not certain. I will have another surveyor go over that survey to reestablish where the iron rods are, drive the stakes to make sure that there's no...
I'm more concerned about asbestos and environmental issues than I would be about an encroachment of that little building on the one side.
I know they sampled the ceiling and the floor stuff, and I've not heard anything back from them on that, and nor have I read the detail of their phase one. We just got it last Thursday or Friday.
And what you want us to prove is for this board to buy this building? Is that what we're proving?
Yes.
No, this is the contract we committed to bring back to you. You told us to go negotiate a contract, and we said we would bring it back to you, so you had a final look at it. This is it.
Well, if we haven't done the test.
It's subject
It's
to
all
it.
subject to your final approval. This is the contract.
We have 60 days to do.
If there's something comes back on the test.
Okay, so
bad,
we'll
then we
come
can
back
say,
later and
we're out.
actually say, all right, go ahead and buy it.
If Bill were to
That's true.
discover something during the due diligence period that he doesn't like, he's gonna bring it back to you and get authority to cancel the contract, and we're done.
But if everything is okay, then you're gonna go ahead and buy the property. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yes, this authorizes them to purchase the property subject to our completion of due diligence over
Okay.
60 days.
All right.
I guess the main question is, do you see any problems with their changes?
I don't. I have no problem with it.
Bill?
No. I will call attention that they've asked for 25,000 earnest money rather than 5,000. We obviously proffered a low amount, and it's just the way they want to do business, so it's a non-issue.
But if there is a problem with what Jimmy's saying, do we get our money back? Is that, what's this gone down there?
We do.
We do.
It'll be
If
a-
we cancel it during the inspection period, we get the 25,000 back.
There's also one last caveat. All of this is subject to IDA approval.
Okay.
Any further discussion from the board? Dottie, do you have any opinion on special warranty deed? I understand that's used frequently with foreclosed.
He's exactly right, especially banks, when they take back a property, they'll use a special warranty deed. It's still a warranty deed. You'll have your title insurance, which will protect you up to the amount of the purchase for anything that could come up, and it'll show it beforehand, so I don't see a problem with it at all.
Any further discussion from the board? If not, we will open for a motion.
Motion will be just to, again, to exercise,
Authorize Bill to take the final step to enter into contract, and then
and to provide the deposit money. And
fund the deposit and
so moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Any public comment? Mr. Coleman.
A couple of questions. How was the purchase price established?
Go ahead and put all of your questions out there if you would, please, and we'll address them.
Okay. First of all, I think it's probably a good buy, just in general. Purchasing this property probably should have been purchased a long time ago, except that maybe it just came into foreclosure. I don't know with the circumstances, but what I've seen from the purchases that this board has made in the past, the methods that were used to come up with the numbers on how much money is being paid for these buildings is all over the place. I would recommend if this is some kind of a take back from the bank or whatever, and $510,000 is a good price. I don't know if that property was on the market. What I'm trying to say is every attempt should be made by this board to get the best deal available. Now, if that is getting an appraisal or two appraisals or three and taking the middle one, or letting them put it on the market and working through a real estate broker to work the deal and try to get the best possible price, that's the process that should be used on every real estate deal. So when I say somebody came up with a number 510, that's the question. Was that the market value? How much is the value of the loan that got walked away from? All of that should have been brought out before this board so that you could say, you know what, we've been looking at that old building for a long time. It's probably going to take $2 million to renovate it. We may have to even tear it down. We don't know if there's petroleum under it, like there was no survey done on this building of any kind, spot as is. All these processes should follow some kind of a list, so that when it's all said and done, you can feel that, yes, it was all done and we did the best we could and we're proud of what we did, instead of just this helter-skelter. That's why I asked the question. How was the price determined? Who did? That's the question.
Are you finished?
Well, Mr. Lambert said he was going to answer all my questions. I'm asking the question.
I'll answer the question. As previously stated in the last board meeting, this particular property it has been obtained by the seller, which is Branch Bank and Trust, in a collapsed portfolio from another bank. The collapsed portfolio was taken over by the FDIC. The parameters for which they take offers on properties that are in collapsed portfolios are different than usual and normal purchase procedures. In this instance, they asked me to sign an NDA to see the appraisal. I could not sign an NDA because if I did, someone would have made a public records request and I would have been compelled to produce it. So I was in a position to not be able to take their appraisal. I did find out through third-party investigation that the property had been appraised somewhere above $700,000, and that the comparables utilized in the appraisal were in an urban Tampa market, an urban Lakeland market, and an urban Ocala market. I felt like that those markets were not true comparables to the Hardee County market. And I said I would like to be able to proffer a lower price. I countered at, or I made an initial offer at $380,000, which was $10 a square foot on the 38,000 square feet in the building. It made no allocation for the 3.6 acres of land for which the property sits on. They came back and said that they cannot take that lower figure, that we had to proffer somewhere above $500,000. So we came back with a $510,000 offer or appraised value, whichever is lower. In this instance, I don't see anything we've done that is not usual and normal. You'll have an appraisal, you'll know what the value of the building is. If the appraisal comes back above 510, we're going to pay 510. If it comes back below 510, they're going to take the appraised value, or we're not going to buy it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman. Any further public comment? If not, we will take a vote on the motion. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed?